Welcome in to another episode of the My Two Bits Gators Football Podcast. And that sound at the beginning there was something we certainly did not hear enough of this weekend. How you doing, Mr. Randy? How you feeling tonight?
Man, I'm just glad to be on the broadcast with you, B. Glad to be
That's it.
here.
We're here. We made it, right? We survived. That's it.
Yeah.
For those of you who are joining for the first time, my name is Ben, joined as always by my host, or our host on this show, Randy, and we are here to bring you all things Gator football, which is just a great topic this evening, isn't it? Just an exciting topic to talk about. All things Gator football. Riveting, yes, riveting. So, as always, we'll get things started off here with our intro, our mission, and our vision, and our agenda. Walk you through our standard agenda for the pod when we have a game, which is nice to be getting back to that. So that's a little nice thing to get back into, a little familiarity there. So with that, our mission, as always, is to provide factual analysis of all things Florida Gator football. So we will keep it to the facts here, try to keep as much of the emotions out of it as we can, though that will be a little challenging this evening for sure, considering. But we will have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film, and while we will express opinion, that opinion should always be based in some form of fact. We will also evaluate strategy and tactics and discuss our observation of player personnel decisions. Might have to stress that one a little, as well as on the field execution. So with that, our agenda for this evening, we will start with the Oh My section and talk about the exciting plays we had from this weekend's game. And that might be a little short, but we will talk about it nonetheless. Then we will go on to the Chomp segment and discuss the offense or lack thereof. We will then talk about Gator Bait and the defense. We will then go through the visor throw segment, which might get a little long this evening. And that is our gripes about the game and coaching decisions and things of that nature. We will then talk a little recruiting in our hatchling segment. Then talk about the culture on the team, which is going to be very important after a game like this in the Pride of the Sunshine segment. Then we will talk officiating. That was none too fun, but probably didn't really mean a whole lot, despite some of the issues we may have had. And that's our Move Back You Suck segment. And then we will finally wrap things up, kind of take a look at where things are overall, play a little Keep It or Pitch It, go over our Keep It or Pitch It results from last week, and talk Keep It or Pitch It for this week at Samford. So, or not at Samford coming to the Swamp. So with that, let's get things started with Oh My and talk to me about what the good plays were from the game. Give me what you got, Randy. Where are we at?
All right, my man. Well, I think everyone is going to resonate with this one, but Montrell Johnson coming back after a knee scope, which seems like it was yesterday. Now it's been a few weeks now. But 71-yard run. And for whatever reason, if we thought he was going to be the bigger back, he's not that fast. Boy, I tell you what, he took off. He was kicking up some dust on his way to the end zone. And I'm sure he had the roar of the crowd behind him. That I'm sure that helps with the endorphins, But phenomenal run around to see Montrell get up to speed and take it to the house. 71 yards. Longest run that we've had in a while. So that was phenomenal. And then my other one that I'm going to call out is we had two James on the field for defense, of course, but this one is going to be Shamar. So one can say, well, it's Cam's fault, this, that, and the other, because he threw across his body, threw back. Doesn't matter. We got an interception. At the end of the day, we made a point to focus on what this defense needed to do better as far as takeaways, especially when it comes to the fumble recoveries. Interceptions was huge. And guess what? Shamar was in the right place at the right time to get us an interception, hopefully change some momentum. Didn't work out that way, but really, really happy to see him get his hands on one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you got?
Believe it or not, B, that's why I've got there's a couple of ones that Pup had some great stick tackles and a one-to-one situation, tackles for loss, things of that nature. But when it comes to, and I can say as a whole, Pup had a phenomenal game. But outside of that, for the my's, it's going to be Trell and it's going to be Shamar's INT.
Yep. and I have the same. So for those who
Oh,
don't know and might be listening for the first time, we do not discuss these points beforehand. We have the agenda set up in advance, but we do not discuss our topics or what we're actually our discussion points, I guess I should say, prior. So we watch the game independently. Randy is usually at most of, if not all of, the home games. He was at this one, unfortunately. But then we go back and we watch the film and review it, and we pick out the plays that we want. Break down the film and look at it as best we can from the TV feed. We do only have the TV feed to go off, but regardless, and then we go through and we make our points accordingly. So more often than not, we share similar takes on a lot of this stuff, and obviously with big plays, these were kind of obvious, so it's not shocking. But in this case, we had not only the same two, but these were the only two for me as well. I had the Shamar interception, and like you said, regardless of how it happened, it was great to get the INT, takeaways being the emphasis. But also, I'll call out what a great catch, especially for a linebacker. That ball was not easy to handle. It was kind of a little behind him, if you will. Not that it was being thrown to him, but he had to definitely make a play on the ball there, and a phenomenal catch to be able to pull that in, especially being a linebacker rather than a cornerback or safety. Really nice hands on that, and I thought a really solid play there. Obviously, that really, in theory, could have turned momentum, but then of course didn't end up happening that way. So. And then, of course, the Johnson run. You called out the speed. Absolutely. I was a little surprised by the speed. That was one of the concerns I had was, could
yeah.
Johnson really be a home run hitter? Hey, looked fine to me. He really took off with that thing. Safety did take a bad angle for Miami, but nonetheless, I mean, he looked plenty fast. Nobody caught him, certainly. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And also call out to Slaughter and Harris on those kick out blocks, man. Najee missed it a little, but then Jake was right there to clean it up. I mean, they were really both there, but I mean, they were kicking out 10 yards plus away from the snap. I mean, those were great kick out blocks. I mean, to be that far away from the ball where the ball was snapped and be kicking out all the way out there on that pitch, to clear out the way and really make great blocks to clear that out for him to be able to go and run. Was a play call I wouldn't have mind seeing again, but we didn't. All right, moving along. So uh, to the offense, and let's talk some offensive football or lack thereof. So one of the things we always look at here when we start this segment is the quarterback rating and the yards per carry that we had on offense, and then we'll look at the same that we allowed on defense. So this is rough. The combined quarterback rating of both Mertz and Lagway and this is an NFL rating. We use the NFL rating because the college rating is just way too subjective. It goes way too high, way too low, especially way too high, really. So we use the NFL rating because we find it to be a little better system, and it goes up to a 158.3 from 0 to 158.3. Our combined rating was a 34.46. That is by far the lowest number we have ever seen since we started doing this pod. It was actually lower than Max Brown against Florida State last year, at the end of last season. It is abysmal. It is a terrible, terrible number. There is no two ways around it. And obviously, most of that was Mertz, which is depressing to say the least. Not good. No way to spend this positively at all. It is basically terrible. And I don't have a lot of answers as to why it was so bad. We will talk about some of the stuff as we go forward. Yards per carry is a lot better. So we take out any team lost yardage and we take out sack lost yardage from this number when Mertz is quarterback anyway. Now, we won't do this if Lagway plays next week because Lagway obviously is a dual threat quarterback. But if we have Mertz back there who's not really going to run. I know he scrambled a couple times, but that's not the same. He's not going to run consistently. We take out any yardage that he had, positive or negative. I just take him out of the mix because sack yardage counts against the quarterback in college. So we take him out, and then we take out any team, rushing yardage, positive or minus. We do this both ways, though with Cam Ward, I did count his yardage because he had a bunch of scrambling yardage. And again, he's kind of a dual threat, kind of. So I did count his. 6.86 yards per carry, which is phenomenal. really, really good, almost 7 yards a carry. I mean, that's as good as you can possibly ask for. Obviously, that's a skewed stat, though, because of the 71-yard run. So that's going to drive your average way up. If you take that out, it goes way down. I didn't recalculate it from there. I saw somebody who did it without including the sack yardage and all that stuff, and it was in the twos. It wouldn't have been that low, including that stuff. It probably would have been in the threes, so it wouldn't have been great. Certainly not as good as it was with the 71-yard run. So, long story short, offense was rough. It's I have one of, if not the worst. I'm just going to say it was the worst offensive performance that I've seen under Napier. Napier's been anything but stellar on offense, as a play caller, as a head coach. I mean, let's be real. He has not been stellar, but he's been okay. He's been fine. He's been serviceable. He's been decent since he's been here. It's been okay. It's been a little middle of the road, but it's been fine. This was not fine in any way, shape, manner, or form. This was bad. And he's admitted that. I will say he's come out. He said he doesn't understand how it was so bad. He's very confused, which I don't know about that answer, but at least he's admitted that it's his fault and that he takes accountability and that he's embarrassed by it and that he will, work to make it better. I don't know that that's a good enough answer, but at least it's an accountable one in terms of the fact that he's taking responsibility for it. Or play calling and design, of course. I mean, that just happens every time. But it was different this time. I will see that. We didn't necessarily see the predictability we have before with him, which is good. However, what we saw might have been worse. And what I mean by that is, one of the things we called for is how are they going to use Trey differently this season, right? What are we going to do with Trey particularly? Because he's so dynamic, he's so explosive. We know he can do, neat and creative stuff. How are they going to scheme up different ways to get him the ball? Pausing for effect here. Did you see any different ways we got him the ball, Randy, than we did last season? Because I sure didn't.
Bueller.
Yeah. Bueller. Bubble screens, jet sweeps, touch passes. It was all the same stuff. I'm not saying that stuff isn't okay to do, but if that's all you do with him and they're going to key in on him doing that, you have a problem. Now, what happened when Lagway came in the game? Oh, we threw him a couple quick slants. And it worked great. A clue. How about you do that with Mertz? Neat idea. How about you run something downfield? How about when you fake the bubble screen to Trey, like they did several times, and then try to go downfield to somebody else? How about you fake that to another receiver and run Trey on the route? Like, why does it always have to fake to him? I don't understand it. And to be honest with you, Napier promised that we were going to wear Trey out. How many touches he have? Like 8? I don't know. I didn't look that up. But it wasn't that many. Now, granted, we didn't have that many offensive snaps, but nonetheless, I didn't see Trey like dominating the touches on offense. He got more than probably anybody else, maybe other than Trell, but it wasn't anything excessive. So I'm confused. You told me you were going to wear him out, and he touched the ball, I'm pretty sure, less than 10 times. I'm going off memory here. I don't have the stat in front of me. But nonetheless, what are we doing? No targets downfield. None. 0. Zip. What? What hit in the spring game? The 80-yard touchdown. That ball was thrown at least 20 yards in the air to Trey, maybe more than that, when we hit on that play. And I know that play might not have worked, but the point is you had him running a route downfield. Where was that? Oh, it didn't happen because everything was in the backfield. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and there was no reason for it. So beyond that, we didn't lean into the passing game the right way, like we talked about. Not nearly enough. We threw this beautiful back shoulder ball to Badger on the second drive of the game, right? Absolutely beautiful ball. Great concept. Loved it. They're running press man all day. All day they're running press man all over the field. And we run this beautiful back shoulder fade to Badger. And then we never called that play again. How many times have we said this before on this pod? What a great play design. What a great idea. You use it once and then you abandon it. Why? Why? I don't understand. That play clearly would have worked again. Doesn't even have to beat a Badger. Throw it to somebody else. But the concept is outstanding. Jesse Palmer even said it on air. That play is unguardable against man coverage, and he is correct. You literally can't stop it. So throw it again. And we never did. It's just mind-numbing. It's absolutely mind-numbing. So, Billy, here are clues as to why maybe your offense didn't work better. Just hints. Then we can get into the O-line. The left side of the O-line was actually pretty good. Austin Barber graded out as the best player on offense, according to Pro Football Focus, overall grade, though he probably didn't get enough snaps. But it's great to see him back and playing well. I think he shared a little too much time, but hey, okay, we need a rotation there. I agree, we need a rotation there. I don't want him getting worn out, but he was great. We just talked about Harrison Slaughter. Slaughter was your third best graded out player. So two of our O linemen were the top three graded out on offense on the whole team. So I'm complaining about the O line, yes, but I'm not complaining about those guys. I'm complaining about the right side, as we suspected could be an issue. Particularly, I'm going to complain about Cam Waits here. I'm sorry to say this because when the depth chart came out, I was kind of surprised in a way, but I said, okay, maybe Cam Waits earned his spot here. Maybe Crenshaw Dixon, didn't quite get it done, and maybe Cam really stepped up in camp and he's earned a spot at right tackle. Let me assure you he did not, because he scored, get ready for it, a 0 on pass blocking from PFF. A Goodness. 0. I've never even seen that before. A 0. 15 attempts. He allowed 4 pressures. Wow. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. So the long and the short of it is, clearly this was extremely disappointing. Really surprisingly disappointing when it comes to the offense. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed in Mertz. He did not look like the year 2 product we hoped to see. In many ways, the deep balls that he threw were inaccurate. Almost across the board. Though there was one that might have been able to be completed, a little extra pushing and shoving going on down there. But for the most part, they just weren't catchable. And I it's got to be better. I appreciated he took a couple deep shots and went for that, and they were clean. They were one-on-one coverage. It was good balls to take. No fear of him pressing unnecessarily, but the balls weren't accurate. They just weren't there. Now he only got a couple of shots, and in fairness, you probably got to throw more than that in order to have a higher completion rate on them. I'll give him that. I'm not trying to dog him out, and I didn't think he looked terrible, but he didn't look great. Certainly, I'm bordering on didn't even look good, and I really expected him to look great. And he did not, certainly. So that was a little disappointing as well. But overall, the thing I'm most disappointed in is, once again, play calling. And I don't know how many times I got to say it. It's obviously they're not listening to me, and that's okay. I don't expect them to, but it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because this really ought to be better. It was one of the things we really hoped to be better, and I guess all we can do is continue to hope that it does get better, because that's really where we are at this point. So give me your thoughts on offense. What you got?
This is what's tough for me, B. All the things you just mentioned. So it's one thing to say, hey, tough game, opening game, blowout, this, that, and the other. But the other thing to keep in mind is all of the talk, the narrative, the commentary regarding, hey, look at the offense. Hey, Graham Mertz 2.0, right? Just like Nix, just like Daniels, just like year 2 in the system. He's going to be comfortable. He knows it like the back of his back. I don't know. It's I'm Gator Nation. This is very much therapy. And I have checked in for the evening. This is what's tough about this game. And I shared this with Ben. When you read you listen, and you're so amped. And yes, you see things with orange and blue goggles. But at the end of the day, you know that your overall star count went up almost a full star. Your blue chip prospects went up by 14, 15, 16%. Your talent gap, you feel like you fixed some things on offensive line play to give protection. You feel like you have viable weapons. You feel like you've got speed. You've got players that have shed weight, that have gained muscle. You've got players that have increased 4 or 5 miles per hour off their top speed, and almost none of it was to be found.
Yep.
To really encapsulate what we thought this offense could be. So you already said it. I'm not going to mention it. You said what the QBR was. Unreal. To say that the offense was rough, I think is you're being nice. So good job. You'll be good cop. I'll be bad cop. 17 first downs. 17 first downs. Miami had 25, and that really doesn't tell the full tale of the tape. When
No,
you look at
that's not that big a difference.
right? It really isn't. But when you look at everything else that happened to get those 17 first downs, it's like, oof, okay. 144 yards rushing, Miami had. We had 139. 139 yards rushing, 122 yards total passing. What? 261 yards of offense. Mertz averaged 267, 270 last year alone, and we had 261 yards of offense. Huh. Interesting. It was just absolutely abysmal. I really have to say that. Time of possession. This is something that we did a lot of last year to wear some other teams down. We had some long 11, 12, 13-yard plays, or 13 play drives of 80 yards, 81, 82 yards. On Saturday, our time of possession, 25 minutes, 30 seconds. Miami, 34-30. Okay. Third down conversions, 1 of 9. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
B, you
yeah.
said it.
I'm going to get into that later. Yeah.
Yeah, B, you said it about Trey. How many targets? 8 targets, 7 receptions, 50 yards. That's it. To our number 1 threat. Okay. Mertz, you know what? We expect a lot of Mertz, year 2, this, that, and the other. But I'll tell you what, B, I'm not sure about you, but Mertz looked so uncomfortable. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely it seemed like he was really worried about the rush even before it started to really be a factor. That's what
Yeah.
it felt like.
Bingo. You had that. And again, Bain went down in the second quarter. So Bain was gone.
I know.
Okay. Of course, they had to have other capable people on that D line. Clearly. Okay. I'm not saying they don't. Just because Bain's out of the game. Okay, great. Let's, field day. No, it's not. But Graham was a very humanistic 11 for 20, 55 yards, 55% completion percentage compared to his 72 and change last year. Looked very frazzled, looked very indecisive. I tell you what, Jake Slaughter, really, really happy to see what he did, how far he's come, especially to take on that center role. Had some, like you said, great kick out blocks, especially on that Montreal run. He did the best he could. But I'd say that right side, you called it out, and I'll back you up on that. That right side was as if the massive chink in the armor, blocks down, walls down. We were just scrambling for our lives. And after all the issues we had last year to protect Graham, this is what we're running into again.
Yep.
We said before he needs another half second to full second to go through the progressions and make something happen. Didn't happen.
Clearly not.
Right? Russ Callaway. Well, the reason, will the real Russ Callaway please stand up? There was no kind of signature, no kind of print that Russ Callaway was ever involved in this offense. because the offense looked very similar to fall of 23. And in addition to that, besides being similar, it looked worse from an efficiency standpoint. Okay. 3rd and 5, run the football. 3rd and 7, run the football. 3rd and 6, run the football. 3rd and 9.
We've seen this movie before.
Run the football. I believe I have. I know my wife makes fun of me because I can tune into different movies depending on what they are. Older movies, they're 17 minutes in, they're 22 minutes in. It's just a feel good for me. This didn't feel good. Already saw it. Didn't like it.
I will say though, there were a couple times between the 40s and 3rd and medium where we did pass. Thank goodness. I will say I did take note of that. So that is a diversion from the norm.
Holy smokes! Are you reading my notes? Like we don't share notes. Seriously, the one bright spot I will say is that we were involved in some passing plays outside of the 40. So based off of that, that was a slight change to last fall.
Yep.
Albeit an abysmal, I mean, not even pedestrian, abysmal looking offense to produce what they produced. 261 total yards, right? And again, I know Miami is highly ranked at 19th, blah, blah, blah. They've got a bunch of athletes, and it is what it is. But I'm still in shock at that performance or lack of performance that the offense displayed. I'm just going to stop there, B.
Yeah, fair enough. No, fair enough. And I will say, I will take a moment here. Miami was definitely better than I thought they were going to be.
Right.
Substantially, and especially on defense. I really thought their secondary was going to be suspect, and they played a lot better than I thought they would. They did a very good job in man coverage against some quick receivers. Like, our receivers are not slow, as we discussed. They did not get beat in coverage. I mean, they were not getting smoked. Nobody was wide open down there. They were pretty solid on defense, pretty much across the board. Obviously, that D-line was stout. We knew that. But their linebackers played pretty well. They were solid against the run for the most part, other than the big one they gave up. I mean, they were pretty good. They were really pretty good. I'll give credit where credit's due. They really played a solid game. See, Miami, that's how you act with class. We'll cover that later. Okay. Moving along. So to talk about defense, and I'll let you go first here, but I'll give you the stats first. Ward's QB rating on the NFL scale, again, it goes to a 158.3. He had a 126.49. So just a little shy of 100 points higher than ours. Whoops. And they only averaged 4.36 yards per carry. Now, again, I did not take sack yardage out of that, but there was only one sack that we had, and it was for minimal yardage, like -3 yards that we got. And I did leave his yardage in there because of the scrambling. So even if I'd have taken that out, it would have barely affected it. It would have gone up to maybe like 4.5 or something. So we held them under 5 yards of carry, which is solid. That's really what you want. You want definitely, I mean, under 4 is better, but under 5 is good. So the yards per carry number's pretty strong. The quarterback rating is obviously not strong. So go ahead, take it away. What are your thoughts on defense?
Defense was, and again, Miami came in. I tell you what, you want to talk about class? Miami came in ready. They had a game plan.
Yep.
They looked well polished, rehearsed. They looked like week 5, 6 in stride.
They really did. They really did.
You know, Cam Ward was humming, and I did not think, personally, I didn't think he could handle the noise of the swamp, the pressure of the swamp. And he just brushed it off his shoulder like it was nothing. Because I'm telling you, it was loud, folks. It was loud.
Not period. According to him. But
no, he silenced it pretty good. Pretty good.
No. I don't know if you saw the article about the press conference after. According to him, the swamp's not loud, but we'll move along.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, continue.
Yeah. Outside of that, the D-line did not get as much push as I'd like to see.
No, definitely not.
I tell you what, I was so looking forward to see that front four up there. I was so looking forward to see Justice Boone come back, big ACL injury, coming back, playing free, playing controlled, playing just wreaking havoc. And he didn't. He finished the game with 1 tackle. Okay, I'm gonna roll this down for you, B, step by step. Grayson Howard, Pup, as he's known as, 6 total tackles, led the team in tackles. Shamar James, 5 tackles. TJ Searcy, 5 tackles. Jack Piber, 5 tackles. Jack also coming off big surgery.
Yeah. Surprise stat of the game is Jack Piber tying for second on the team in tackles for sure.
Right? And he looked agile. He looked good. So that is what it is. Sheriff Denson, 4 tackles. Castells, 4 tackles. RJ Moten, 4 tackles. Cameron James, the other James, 4 tackles. Aaron Childs, 3 tackles. He does 3 tackles. Makai Burrow, for those of you who don't know, Aaron Childs, Makai Burrow, big freshman.
Yep.
Highly talented freshman coming in here. Tariq Sapp, 3 tackles. Triquez Bridges, 2. Dejon Johnson, 2. So on and so forth. The defense, offense was abysmal, but the defense was really tough to watch. All the scar tissue that we talked about that we had, all of the scheming, and the other thing, B, and I know I mentioned this offline, but what was interesting to me was when I watched the replay, anytime they talked about the defense or referenced the defensive coach, shots went to Big Papa Ron, not AA.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
and again, he's supposed to be the overall coordinator. AA still there. Austin Armstrong doing his thing, but it was very interesting when they the camera showed nothing of AA and only a Big Papa Ron.
Yep. Very weird to me. Very weird.
To that end, if he's supposed to be this defensive guru and he comes in, he's supposed to hold accountability over those positions with scheme, why in Sam Hill was Shamar James looking so out of place, trying to get people in the right position, trying to signal in a play, waving people over, positioning people over, other players to basically get into position? What was that about?
I don't know.
I have no idea. The defense looked uneasy, discombobulated, unorganized, and quite frankly, not coached up.
No.
But we added a coach. We added a coach to oversee all this. It wasn't there. What was improved? The T word, tackling.
Yep.
Tackling
was
was different. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just need to see more of it. What was not improved was some of the communications on the corners and some blown coverages downfield. Xavier Restrepo was, for lack of a better term, I get it with bracketing the wide receiver, but at the same time, we just blew some stuff that got him way the hell open, and he shouldn't have been. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of guys that were way too wide open.
There were. And so outside of that, and again, Miami's a great team. I again, from a class standpoint, you just give them credit. But at the same time, you cannot let a team like that, and I get it, 5 of 6 in the red zone, that's what you give up? 5 out of 6 in the red zone.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we almost put a red zone stat in, keep it or pitch it. I'm glad we didn't, man.
We did.
Miami was a bad red zone team last year, too, by the way. Bad red zone team.
They were, right?
Yeah.
Third down conversions, 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Couldn't get off the field, dude. Couldn't get off the field.
Yeah, and at one point, I think they were 5 for 5. I think we held them on the last 5, but at one point, I believe they were 4 or 5 or 5 of 5. It was real bad early.
4 out of 5 early. You are correct. Yeah, 4 out of 5, and then 529 yards allowed.
Yeah,
holy shnikes.
Yeah, and 41 points. Oh, by the way.
And I'll let you finish it. Yeah, 41 points.
Yeah.
So, folks, again, you can tell my posture. Yes, I'm disappointed. Yes, I'm frustrated. Yes, I am treating this as therapy. I just did not I think a lot of people share the same sentiment. We just did not expect this performance. We were going to be surprised by the look of the Gators in the fall of 24. We're going to be surprised, not like this.
Yeah.
Like this. Leaving it at that, B.
Yeah, no, 100%. I obviously really have to eat crow if this continues, and certainly I have to for this game because I'm the one who called out the end of last season that I thought we were going to take the big step on this side of the ball, right? I've had my questions about offense for a long time, though. Again, I didn't see a regression coming, but I have had questions about how much we can really advance and improve and everything else. But my solace was coming in the fact of, okay, the defense is going to get better. We saw all the signs to indicate that could happen. Here comes the better coaching. Here comes the maybe not better coaching, but different coaching and changes to approach and more synergy and better tackling, which at least we did get some of that. But it didn't matter because there were things that were even more out of whack on the back end than even what I remember seeing last year, to be honest about it. Like we had gaps last year, but I mean this was ridiculous. This was some of the worst coverage I can remember seeing in a long time since Trey Dean was back there just not covering people. Like that's what I remember, honestly, is when a receiver would just run and he would just stand there and go, "Oops, that was my guy. See you later." That's what it felt like. I mean, that's not clearly it wasn't the same as that, but it might as well have been because I mean these guys were just wide open. I mean, just wide open. There's nobody within 5 yards of them. I mean, that's what is going on. I don't know if we're playing some kind of bracket, like you said, and somebody's not bracketing right. If we're playing zone back there, from what I've heard in the press conference and listened to Billy talk about today, it seems like it came down to communication issues and lack of understanding of what the play call was at times, which is just totally unacceptable, right? That's inexcusable and just terrible. But at the end of the day, that's what it looks like it came down to. So, in theory, if it is just communication and understanding, and they know what they can do, and if they know what they're supposed to do and they can do it, I hear him saying this is, correctable and fixable and everything else. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'll hold out hope for that because this was really bad. So let's get into some of the finer points of it. It did start better. We should have held Miami to a field goal on their opening drive. That roughing call on Boone did not work for me. If that was roughing, then Mertz got roughed 4 times.
Ew.
And he didn't get roughed once, according to the flag. So I am not in agreement with that call, to say the least. We'll get into that later, though, when we talk officiating. Again, you mentioned it. Bright spots were tackling, especially in the open field. It was definitely better. I really only saw I would call one true missed open field tackle. That I saw. I'm not saying it was the only missed tackle, but in the open field where you had somebody running, I saw it get missed truly once. And the run defense overall was improved. We talk about that. Yards per carry was better, right? Though I will say Wingo, I love Derek Wingo as a guy. I think he's a great leader. He is just not an outstanding player. He is just not. He gets over anxious. He runs in there and just runs into a block and misses the gap and isn't where he's supposed to be. Couple times we gave up many more yards on a run than we should have in the second half in particular, because he went in and charged in there all gung-ho, whereas you saw Shamar wait and get a lot closer to making the play because he waited, but then he didn't have any help and he couldn't necessarily get off the block and make the tackle or get around the block to make the tackle. He came close on one play, and I think on another he actually did make it, but he was not able to because he didn't have the assistance, and that's what we need to not have happen. So I'd like to see Pup in the game more, less Wingo, more Pup. Howard is clearly, in my opinion, the superior player as far as knowledge and understanding of the game, and a better tackler, quite frankly. That kid can really, really tackle. So back to coverage. For those that don't know, Devin Moore played 8 snaps in this game. Debatably our best cover corner, played 8 snaps in this game. Why? Well, I don't really know, but the assumption is he got hurt again. We didn't get any kind of injury update on him. Don't know why. Very confused about that. I don't know why we don't get better injury updates on the sideline in college. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's like when it's a star player, you hear about it, but when not, well, you just don't know. So, Devin Moore, 8 snaps. Not good. Not good. That's a guy we did not need. We know he's had health issues in the past. We did not need him to go down, especially not the first quarter of game one. So, bad news there. We don't know what's wrong. I've not received any injury update on him. We don't know. However, after he went out, Jakeem Jackson came in to replace him, and he was okay on a couple of plays, but he often seemed to not know what the play call was. Once again, communication. He looked lost out there, missed assignments, confused in coverage. And overall, we had a PFF grade on team coverage of 50.6. Now, for those that don't know how the PFF rankings work, they go 0 to 100. Anything 70 and above is when you start to consider it, good. So 50 is not good. So as a team, not as a player, as a team, we graded out dead middle, basically, of their scale, but that's not good. That's not what you want at all. That's giving up way too much. So he wasn't alone, is what it comes down to, in having coverage issues. Castell played a solid game for the most part, I would say, but I did see a couple times the first touchdown, really, that was Castell's man, and he was late getting there. If he had gotten there sooner, it probably wouldn't have been a touchdown. He was late reacting. He did get there, made the tackle as he was going into the end zone, but it was too late, right? And that happened a couple times. Then again, later in the game, he made a phenomenal play on the ball and knocked it away. So, I'm not going to knock Castell. I thought he was overall decent, but definitely some stuff. And again, it does seem like it may have been some communication things, and I just don't necessarily understand that. A lot of times, though, I couldn't really tell who was at fault in a lot of these cases because you can't see, right? We can't see on the live TV angle. And Randy and I talked about this beforehand, and it wasn't necessarily clear to him either. I even watched a broadcast on YouTube about PFF kind of going over these things, and they kind of said they weren't even sure what coverage we were in sometimes. That's scary, right? So that clearly to me means that we've got guys that are confused and not sure what's going on. It's got to get cleaned up. It's got to get better. It's the end of the story, and the time for that to happen is now. Now, because we all know the schedule that's in front of us. We got 1 week to fix it, get it right with Samford, and then it's on to business. I'm going to assume that we have the capability to do that. And maybe that's a bad assumption on my point, but from everything that we've heard and been told and everything else, like you said, I'm going to assume that's still possible. First game, first week, get out the mess, get out the BS, right? We got really smoked and exposed by it. Maybe another team wouldn't have necessarily done that. Maybe a team that wasn't as prepared wouldn't have necessarily done that. But at the end of the day, it's got to get fixed and it's got to get better now. So all we can do is hope that it improves. I'm going to stay hopeful that it does. I'm not going to lose all faith after 1 week, right? Let's not play overreaction Monday here. Let's try to keep some faith despite the terrible result and hope and move on. So with that, visor throw time. Let's keep this positive thing going, right? No, this is not going to be positive.
No.
So, all right, I'm going to start this off. I'm going to try and keep it relatively short and to the point as best I can. So we have a quote from Napier. This is from Saturday's press conference. It comes down to good communication, good execution. At times out there, we did not do that. Okay, what did we talk about? Things we have to have. All world execution, right? Organizational discipline, which implies what? Great communication, great execution, right? We had a lack of execution on both sides of the ball and poor communication. And we talked about this absolutely having to be better, having to be just top shelf for this team to be successful this year. Clearly, it was not. It's unacceptable. Period. Fix it now. Next point. Already mentioned. I told you I wasn't pulling any punches on that this year, by the way. I'm not. There's no more excuses. You cannot get away with it. We're done. We already mentioned the coverage concerns. Napier said multiple times today in his press conference that they had issues with zone drops and, again, communication in regards to man coverage on the back end. Why? What are you practicing all offseason? Why did this happen? Why did these communication issues occur? What are you doing? How is this not already communicated? How do you not know what you're going to be in? I understand you're going to tweak stuff based on what the offense is showing you pre-snap, and you're going to adjust, right? I understand that there are complex schemes that they're running out there, but how are those calls not established already? How do we not have a plan in place? It's just mind-blowing. Again, fix it now. We already talked about it in the last segment. Offensively, I've already covered the play calling. I'm not going to go back over it. But specifically, I will talk about third down play calls. You mentioned it. Bunch of times the runs, but I will say multiple times where guys, when we were passing, either weren't open or weren't looked at, assumingly because the play wasn't called or designed for them, or we had calls on that didn't put guys beyond the sticks, once again, running these hitches right at or right in front of the sticks, which allowed for them to easily be covered or wouldn't get the first down anyway. So the only option was something underneath. The worst example of this was the first third down of the game that we had where we ran the jet sweep to Trey. Now, this isn't technically a pass, right? It's a touch pass. I love that play. I love the jet sweep to Trey. I think it's a great play, but not on third and medium. Because if the defense commits to the run or to the jet sweep on that play, then you're cooked, which is exactly what happened, right? They run blitz the heck out of it because they assumed that we were going to run that when Trey came in motion, right? And we didn't fake it or anything, which if we had, it would have been money. But again, you're gambling either way, whether you fake it, whether you pitch it, whatever, you're gambling because if they commit to the run and you happen to have faked it, great, you're going to have a guy wide open. But if you didn't, now what? Right now you're in trouble, which is exactly what happened. You get bottled up. If you do it on earlier downs, right, and then it doesn't work, one, you're not hosed and have to come off the field. But two, you're setting other things up, right? You're seeing their tendencies for what they're going to do. They were obviously keying on Trey. Why did we not run that jet sweep and fake it for a pass? Not one time all game did we do that. Where was that play call? Since they were obviously keying in on him. It's just not that hard. The plays in college game day or college NCAA football 25, I run it all the time. It's a great play call. It works fantastically because the defense keys in on Trey. I mean, it's just not that hard. It's just not that hard. I know it's in the playbook. Just call it. Anyway, last question. And this has to do with Asa Turner. And I don't have an update status on Asa Turner's injury either. But why in the world did you have Asa Turner in man coverage on Restrepo? Who thought that was a good idea? That was never going to work. Okay. I love Asa Turner as a player. I think he's terrific. I hope he's not done for the season, by the way, because he may have torn his ACL. We don't know. We have no updates. Not only did he get put in a blender on that play, for those that don't know, he absolutely turned around, put sideways, and ankles broken. But obviously he got hurt, right? But the problem is it was never going to work. Asa Turner cannot keep up with Restrepo in man coverage. That is just not the play call that needs to be on. That is a Sharif Denson or Devin Moore, who was out in fairness, or Jason Marshall job. Like, you are not putting Asa Turner on him in man coverage. That is just not the call. That is their shiftiest, quickest, most dynamic receiver on the team. He may not be the fastest in top end speed, but he is by far and away he's the quickest, right? We talk about quickest and fastest. He's not the fastest, but he's certainly the quickest. And he absolutely destroyed Asa Turner, not only on the route, but then also on the move after the route and why he got so many yards after the catch on that play. Whoever put that into practice and said that it was, or thought that was a good idea, I mean, I want him off the team, period, like today. That's where I'm ending it. Visor throw done. What you got?
Hell of a visor throw. It went pretty far. Farther than almost as far as Montreal's run. I'll just say that. Yeah. First visor throw. How do we burn a timeout coming off of a TV timeout?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Again, like you said, saw that before. 3rd and 5.
Yeah.
Third
I
and
didn't
short.
call that one out, but I thought about it for sure.
Yeah. I'll just say 3rd and mid, right? We already know about 3rd and Grantham on the defensive side of the football, although it's don't let us go that. But is it going to be 3rd and Napier now on the offensive side of the football? Really? That's
oh damn. 3rd and Napier. Oh shit.
I'm serious. Is that what we're left to for this revamped offense and Russ Callaway being infused and blah 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 blah? 1 for 9 and 3rd down. Disgusting. O-line. What O-line? Outside the right side. Well, I get it. Whatever. Or I'm sorry, outside the left side. A little bit better.
Yes.
Still. Didn't give Graham enough time. Graham looked frazzled, uneasy. Communication. So what is this what are we doing when it comes to organization, organizational excellence? What are we doing when we talk about accountability? What is this
I
that
don't
we
know.
heard about in spring practice, in fall practice, how we didn't practice the way we should have? The seniors got together. Graham got together. Justice Boone got together. Cam Carroll, right, got together and said, Jason Marshall came in and said, guys,
Yep.
we can't even practice like this. Where was that? Where's that?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I know Miami's a good team and everything, but a lot of these things we thought were fixed. And rightfully so, should be fixed. That's the other thing that's so tough to digest this loss. It's not just the loss, it's the way in which we lost, the way we looked while losing, and to top it off, the reaction to the loss. That's the other thing that really just is, I'm curious to see how they're going to handle. But anyways, that's the visor throw. It went pretty far. Probably not as far as yours, but it went far.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. They're both going to be dirty for sure, and there's no way they can't be. And I do have something on the reaction to the loss that I'll bring up later.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little recruiting real quick. Give me your update on hatchlings if you have anything.
Yeah, man. You know what? We had a really, it seemed like we had a stout list there for 2025. We had cornerback DJ Pickett has not committed to the Gators yet. Though they're probably at LSU, but he was there. Linebacker Ty Jackson, who has not committed elsewhere. Vernell Brown III, that was a big get for us a few weeks back. Wide receiver Joshua Moore, that was a big get for us. Defensive lineman Jalen Wiggins, he's there. Tashawn Gelsley, tight end. Waltez Clark, fast running back. That's a great commit. Wide receiver Cortez Mills, he's right now committed to Oklahoma. We have Demetra Samuel, that's going to be a Gator. Defensive line, Jarquez Carter, right now not committed, or at least not to Florida. Jeremiah McLeod committed to Florida. Miles Johnson committed to Florida. Running back Chad Gasper committed to Florida. And Joseph Batuchu committed to Florida.
Yep.
And here's the other thing. Great showing there. We had a few from the 26th class, sure. Quarterback Will Griffin was in the house. He made a commitment about 2 months ago. That's great. But it was tough to see the way in which we came off that field, and not to mention what my University of Miami players were saying to some of those recruits, Pete.
Yep, absolutely. So I'll keep this very short and sweet. You can't play like this in front of a bunch of potential recruits. You just can't. You can't show up like this. You'll lose recruits. And you're darn sure not going to flip anybody or get anybody committed putting up a showing like this at home. It's a waste of a real opportunity to recruit. I'm not saying you have to win the game, but you can't play like that, right? That's the problem. You don't have to win, but you can't play like that. You just can't. You can't do it. So I will say, saw positive statements still made by Vernell Brown and by Josh Moore saying that they're still rock solid. They're still very committed, that this didn't deter them at all, that, it's the opening game and they still saw things they liked. They both like seeing Lagway come out there and be effective, because obviously that's going to be their quarterback. So that in a way was okay and good. So that was solid to see, but you just can't keep doing it. Last thing, I'll make a quick comment here, and I said I was going to mention it. Just those Canes players coming over there and saying what they said and talking all this smack about, it's one thing. You want to go talk smack after the game or before the game or whatever, you can do that. But don't be coming over to recruits from another school at the end of a game and running your mouth about don't go here and come to another place. Like, not okay. Not okay. Not at all the time or the place, and just shows a complete lack of class. And the fact that Miami did nothing to rein those players in. That's the real big thing. I understand kids are kids and they can do that. I didn't like the move, but kids are kids, and that can happen. It was a Florida staffer who had to try to keep them away from the recruits. Miami did nothing because they don't care, because they have zero class. They never have. They never will. They're a classless program, and I will scream that from any mountaintop ever. They're the convicts versus the Catholics for a reason. Period. Moving on.
Great 30 for 30 reference.
For real. So, Pride and Sunshine. Let's talk a little team culture from a team that does demonstrate some class. We definitely showed good effort in the game despite the score. I did not see quit out there. I did not see guys half in it, which again, it's been a staple of Billy's teams. I'll give him that. His guys don't quit on him. And I liked the Lagway drive. Showed we were still fighting. First team defense was still in for Miami, which is super questionable coaching decision by Cristobal. Keeping Cam Ward in the game till 2 minutes left. Super questionable coaching decision by Mario Cristobal. Like, you're clearly going to win the game. What the heck is your starting quarterback doing in? Really dumb. Moving along. I also liked today, Napier said that almost the entire team came in today on their day off to work on improvement as a group. So you made a comment about this. You said, coming together as a team and getting things better. Now, obviously, that didn't come to fruition in this game, but the fact that the attitude is there. Now, I don't know if this was for a weight room session or a voluntary practice or what, but either way, that's the attitude you need. That's the culture you need. I still have belief in this team as a group of players that they can rally after this kind of loss. And Napier kind of talked about this, and I really actually liked some of the things he said. He said sometimes having a tough loss at the beginning of the season can actually be a blessing. It can really give you something to rally around, not just as an emotional point, right? But as a point to look at and where did we make the mistakes and what can we improve, and specifically, right, and build off, because it's not just this theoretical, it's this look here, fix, right? Like specific things. He didn't say it exactly that way, but that was the point that he was making. And it was very interesting. And I actually really liked that from the press conference today. Some things I didn't like, but I really liked that. So I think there's really some stuff that can be taken away here from a culture standpoint, the fact that this team has that culture, and really go from there. So what do you got on Pride of the Sunshine?
Yeah, be overall good. No, I did not catch press conference, but yeah, I can see how that would be a good thing for sure. Pride of the Sunshine. The crowd. The crowd was amped at kickoff and ready to go. So Gator faithful, 90,000, 92, how many ever the hell there were. Great job showing up. Home opener, decked out. You did not disappoint as far as the energy and the enthusiasm. And again, even though there were different times in the game where it seemed like it was out of hand early, there was still effort, there was still momentum, there was still fight. So that's awesome. Napier said something very interesting after the game. Well, he said a lot of interesting things in his press conference, but more notably on Saturday night, he said, we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice on how we respond and what we want the rest of the season to look like. I thought that was very interesting.
Yep.
Like you said, yep. Amongst other things he said. What choice are we making? Whose choice is it up to? I would think he's putting this back on the players. But at the end of the day, what's tough about Billy is hearing some of the rhetoric and hearing some of the great leadership quotes and hearing some of the great analogies. And what's also frustrating is hearing the same thing over and over again. However, there was accountability. There was onus. I'll take it from there. Justice Boone, Shamir Dike at the podium. Albeit they had a lot of the similar things to say, but no excuses. And kudos to Justice for he didn't necessarily give Miami credit. He said that that's never what you want to do as a competitor, as an ultimate competitor. You never give your opponent credit, but they did play well. But we need to figure out and we need to search as far as what we need to do better because we are better. Okay, great. No problem. B, I agree with you. As bad as the score looked, because it was bad, there was no quit.
Yep.
There was no quit. Great to see DJ have some success coming in there on the second drive. Great to see Webb get the football, punch it in for a touchdown. That's great. It is. So I'm just going to leave pride at the sunshine at that. Really neat to see that they came in today on the day off to work, like you said, regardless of if it's weight room, if it's communicate, whatever it is, that's the kind of accountability we need. That's the kind of leadership that we need to take this team to the next level. And hopefully we see it next week in Samford.
Yep. That's it. And beyond, obviously. That's really the key. I think next week is a good get right game. Couldn't come at a better time. That's the good news, because this is the only one we really get, and turns out we're going to need it. So let's see what happens. All right, officiating. I'm going to switch it up and go first here, because I like to get your thoughts second in this section. So I'm gonna take it first. I do have several points here, but I'm going to make them brief. Already mentioned, I thought the call on Boone was just horrendous. I absolutely. So in slow motion, when they reran it, it looked like roughing the passer. But I went back and watched it live. It was pretty bang, man. I mean, he let go of the ball and then he got hit. I mean, it was not, he didn't fall on him. He didn't hit him, in the head, like, as opposed to Graham Mertz, who absolutely got hit in the head when he got a concussion, but, no roughing the passer. Moving along. Slow motion, again, made it look worse than it was. Very much looked bang, live when I went back and watched it, at that speed. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of contact between receivers and corners downfield, being on the Miami side, and a lot of times where there weren't flags. Now, they did call 2 PIs, but it was later in the game when it really didn't matter. The biggest 2 that I am concerned with are the ones on the drive after Shamar's pick. There was a play down to Khalil at the front corner of the end zone. A lot of hand fighting. It was back and forth. However, Khalil was clearly trying to turn around, as he did at the end of the play, to turn around to get his head back for the ball. And he was unable to do so because he was being held as part of that hand fighting. And then when he finally, at the end of the play, was able to whip around, it was too late and the ball was going by him. I guess what I would say is the hold wasn't obvious. There wasn't like a jersey grab, so I could see how that was possible. But when you saw him kind of jerk around at the end, it was clear like he was trying to do that. And I don't know how you don't flag that because of that, because of the nature of how he whipped around at the end. It was clear that he was trying to turn before that and couldn't, to me. Very clear to me. The other one that really got me was Arliss. When Mertz threw him a pass near the goal line on the third down play before we ended up kicking the field goal. And the ball was high. I'm not even sure it was 100% catchable, but it certainly was close enough that it would have been ruled uncatchable. And Arliss jumped up to get it. And the corner or safety, I'm not sure which, got there early. He contacted Arliss before the ball got there. I watched it 3 times to be sure. Now, it was close, but he was early. And this happens a lot and doesn't get flagged and drives me nuts. You can't do that. You can't get to the receiver before the ball has a chance to get there. And it just happens over and over again. And even in live time, I was able to see it. It wasn't like I had to go in slow motion to see this. Like it was clear he was there early. No flag. So stuff like this was just really tough. And obviously this, as I said, did not make the difference in the game, did not change the outcome. Changed a couple of scores, perhaps. They should have had 3. We should have got 7. Okay. Changed the score by 7 points. Did we win? No. So, it didn't matter. And even if it ended up being 10, it still didn't matter, right? This did not decide the outcome of the game. I'm not losing sleep over it, but I did not care for the ACC refs. I did not think they were great at all. For quite a few people complaining about them, it was not just me. So I definitely think there were some issues there. But again, it's not the end of the world. What do you got?
Overall, I mean, I can't disagree. All I'm going to say is ACC refs. I'm done. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So,
not wrong.
Yeah. So first thing is Boone. Yeah, bang, bang. But at the end of the day, Boone did not shove him down violently. Boone gave him a tap, and momentum took him down. That was extremely bang, bang. It was extremely late. Well, the flag coming out was late. So that one I think should have been withheld. Now, the second one on DJ Douglas,
Yeah.
The thing that made DJ Douglas's worse is that after the ball was released, DJ probably should have slowed down his speed, but he didn't.
Yep. I agree.
So that was the issue there, albeit not a violent push, not a I'm going to take your head off.
Yeah, he just hit him with his shoulder, right? He didn't extend his arms or anything like, again, I that one to me could have gone either way. I didn't have a huge objection with that one.
Right. Now, the with Khalil on the goal line, the only thing I can think is that the deep wing saw Khalil when he went to turn, his arm, the right arm was extended, the left arm was in. So the only thing I can think of is he thought that Khalil was going to push off because of the hand fighting. And
I can see that.
Potentially pushing off, and then the cornerback potentially holding. Guess what? No call.
And that was mentioned on the broadcast, is that it looked like it might have been, some pushing off the other way too. And it's possible it was, for the record, but I think he definitely got prevented from turning. Like I said, that seemed clear to me as I watched it. But again, I got to watch it more than once, so you don't get that luxury live, obviously. So
no, not yet, not until officials are replaced with robots, but that should be until 2037. Outside of that, roughing the passer on Mertz.
Yeah, those were tough. Those were tough.
He went down, okay, when you look at the sack count. That last sack, well, it wasn't a sack, I'm sorry, it was an interception thrown.
Yes.
But that last one, to see two defenders coming at Graham, one below the knees, I'll just say at the legs, and the other one to the upper body. Man, oh man. Man, oh man. How is that not flagged? Because I'll tell you what, Cam Ward got tapped compared to what Graham went through.
I know. And Graham got hit earlier in the game in the legs too. They never call it. They never call it on him. I don't understand it. I think he got 2 roughing the passer penalties the entirety of last year, and he got hit how many times? Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
He is immune to roughing the passer. I think that
he's the anti Tom Brady.
There you go. He is. So outside of that, ACC crew, it is what it is. A couple of questionable roughing the passers on UM, but like you said, at the end of the day, did not affect the outcome.
No, for sure. Yeah, it didn't change the game. So, all right. So let's wrap this thing up. Where are you at? Where's your head at with the team? What are you thinking? What are we looking at going forward? Tell me your thoughts.
Man, it and like I shared with you before, it's what's tough is how do we respond after this? You didn't get beat. You just got kicked in the teeth. You got absolutely obliterated. And outside of that, you've got to figure out what to do, how to bounce back from that. Again, do we have a cupcake? Sort of, quasi, not necessarily. Samford's, yes, it's an easier component to the rest of the schedule, but that's the other thing too. Do we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps? Do we do what we need to do? Does the leadership, does the scar tissue, does all the other crap that's happened come into play? And do we use that as the fuel, the motivation, the energy? Right? Tyreek Sapp. Do we use all the disrespect as that big chip on our shoulder to show what we're capable of? Do we do that? Is Graham going to be healthy? Graham should clear concussion protocol by Wednesday. We'll know Thursday. Outside of that, is DJ the answer moving forward? I'd hate to throw the kid in there as a true freshman. Big pressure on his shoulder, big weight on his shoulders. But outside of that, how do we bounce back? Is it, B, to what you said earlier, is it a blessing in disguise? I hope it is. I really hope it is.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, we'll see. And as it comes to Lagway, I've got some thoughts on that later. Ran some Sims. Wasn't sure what I was going to take from Sims this week, but we'll talk to that in a minute. Yeah, I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise or not. We'll find out. I think the most important thing is, does this team, make the changes they need to make? And how do they bounce back? And what does it look like? And can they be as strong as we think they can be? We know the talent's there. Okay, the talent is not debatable, right? The talent on paper is there. What are the coaches going to do? Are they going to step up and do what they need to do, right, to make sure that this stuff needs to change? I just was reading an article where Spurrier said, hey, sometimes stuff doesn't work the way you think it's going to work. He talked about an instance back in '91 where he went up to Syracuse and tried running no huddle, and it failed miserably, and they got their the break speed off them basically, and they just ran the ball down their throats, and it just backfired. So when he came back, he had to change things up. He had to do things differently, and that was an approach that he had to take and change. And so, what are you going to do differently in this coaching staff, right? I think that's really good advice, honestly. Spurrier sometimes doesn't always mesh here, or say things that I necessarily think are current, right? But I'll tell you what, that makes a heck of a lot of sense considering the circumstances and the situation. And I think it's spot on. What are you going to do differently? What are you going to do to change this? Because just going back and saying, well, I guess we got to just try harder, that ain't going to get it. That ain't going to get it. You've got to change something in the approach at this point to make this work. And what's that going to be? What's going to be different that's going to make this work? Because, again, the talent is there. It's been proven out over and over again. Bunch of different metrics we can point to, right? You talked about it earlier. So what are we going to do differently? So let's see what happens. And we'll hope for the best and plan for the worst. It's going to be my motto all season. We'll see what happens. All right. Keep it or pitch it. Keep it or pitch it from last week. Let's go through the results real quick. Our first one was... just trying to go through the preamble here. Miami ranked 44th in rushing last season at 173.2. Gators will hold Miami to under 135. We both pitched it, but said it would be close. Miami got 144. We called that one. Both correct, right on the money. Very, very good read on our part on that. So again, the rushing defense was solid. That was good. So we got to keep that up. This one we did not get. Miami's biggest defensive liability is their secondary. We averaged about 260 a game last year. Passing, Miami allowed 216, which was not a lot, but it's ACC again. Florida will pass for over 290. Yeah, how does 123 hit you? Whoa, yeah, not good. We both kept that. We were both very, very, very wrong. So that is a no. And then, of course, Gators held opponents to 35.6% third down conversion last season, despite our struggles with big plays. But Miami converted 41.1% of the time last year. Gators will hold the Canes to under 37% conversion on third down on Saturday. I pitched it. You kept it. I said it was going to be super close. So I don't know if I get credit, but because it was not super close, they of course converted 50%. So I guess I got a half point there. So no, I did say pitch it. So that we're not going to score half points. I'm not keeping up with that all season. So I went 2-1. You went 1-2. But yeah. So not that it really ended up mattering because those were not the ways we thought that was going to go. So for Samford, keep it or pitch it. Here we go. We're going to keep these very straightforward and basic. We're not getting into anything super specific, just very basic numbers. We think we need to kind of go back to basics here. We're going to change a little stuff in our approach, at least for now, and go from there. So UF defense will make improvements this week in communication, as we've talked about, and coverage against Samford and hold them to under 350 yards. It's an FCS team. I thought about setting the bar at 300. I set it at 350. Keep it or pitch it.
You got to regain your strength. You got to regain your swagger in the swamp. You need to reclaim the swamp, refill the swamp, whatever you want to say. Not sure what Samford looks like this year, but I think 350 yards, this is going to be a statement win to get the defense back to where it needs to be because Big Papa Ron is not going to let this happen 2 weeks in a row, especially against an FCS opponent. I am going to keep that.
So I would like to keep this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to pitch it. I do think it will be better. I don't think we're giving up 500 yards to an FCS team. I don't think we're giving up 400 yards to an FCS team, but I think it's going to go slightly over 350. I'm not going to give credit for a jump being this big until you prove it to me. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. I would like it to be under this for what it's worth. I ran 16 sims. Again, I got to the results in a minute. I did take note of the defensive yards allowed. Again, it's just a computer. It never went over 350. It only went over 300, I think, once, maybe twice, and it was barely over. Only once, really, that I can remember. So for what it's worth, The computer thinks we're going to do it. We'll see if they're right. Okay, number 2. Offense will be more effective this week, whether it's an inferior opponent or not, and will produce over 400 yards of total production. Keep it or pitch it.
As much as I want to keep it, I'm going to pitch it. I just don't see. I'm not going to say we're going to get close to 400, kind of like what you were saying earlier, but I can't right now. Seeing what I saw this past week, I can't keep it. I can't keep it. I have to pitch it.
Interesting. So I'm keeping this one because it is a team where now, in fairness, there could be a caveat here, depending on what happens with Mertz and stuff. But it doesn't matter, actually. I'm going to keep it regardless. Either way, I think we get there. I think it'll be more rush heavy if it's DJ, but I still think we get there. And I think we'll do it. And once again here, I paid attention to this number in all the sims I ran, and we were over 400, I believe, every time, except maybe once we were slightly under. But again, it was basically over every time. So once again, I think the computer thinks we're going to do it. So we'll see. Again, I'm not saying the computer's right. I'm just food for thought. Last one. Pass rush will improve this week, and it will... whether it's coming from the from the front 4, pressure or blitzing, and we will have at least 3 sacks during this game. So at least 3. So 2.5 is the over/under, I guess you'd call it. But the 3 sacks or more. Keep it or pitch it.
Keep it.
Hey, we agree on one. I'm right there with you. I think we're going to get this one too. All right. Okay. So, all right. Just putting down your picks there so we can review them for next week. All right. I got them written down. So, some quick notes on the sim real quick here before we wrap up. So I ran 8 sims. I didn't do 10 each this time. I just did 8. First of all, we won every game. So 16-0 against the NCAA equivalent of Samford. They don't have Samford in the game. They don't have FCS teams. They just have 4 different FCS schools and the Southeast version, which, Samford's in Alabama. So this is the Southeast version of the FCS school, is the one I ran it against. Ran 16 different games. We won every one. And here are some stats for you. I ran them with and without Mertz. I did bench more because I'm not sure if he's coming back. I did not bench Asa Turner. That was an oversight on my part. I should have, but I don't think that's going to make the difference here, honestly. So, here we go. Average points scored with Mertz, 46.5. Average points scored with DJ, 45.8. Basically the same. Average points against with Mertz, 9. Average points against with DJ, 2.4. So this is the surprising stat. Why so much better with Lagway at quarterback? And the answer is here. Your average rushing yards with Mertz were 226.8 versus DJ 257.1, but your passing discrepancy was only 218.3 with Mertz to 201 with DJ. So you didn't appreciably change that much on passing, about 15 yards a game, but you gained 30 plus yards of rushing per game. And what does running do more of? It takes the clock. So what we saw was a 2.5 minute increase in time of possession from just over 37 minutes a game to almost 39.7. So that is the reason why the defense was able to be more successful, is because the offense possessed the ball for almost 3/4 of the game, basically, right? Or 2/3, almost 2/3 of the game. When, and granted, it's only 2 more minutes, but that can be significant, right? That can be a whole nother drive, basically. And that's huge. And that's what it comes down to. So the defense was able to hold them off more. One other quick note, it's just simulations, but when DJ was quarterbacking, it was 4 shutouts. Mertz, there were none. Several times it was only a field goal, but no shutouts. So just interesting. Less possessions, right? Less time with the ball. The other team has less opportunity to score. And I didn't make any changes to the defensive lineup. None whatsoever. Or scheme or anything. Kept it all the same. So just kind of an interesting little thing that happened there in terms of that. Now, obviously, we win either way. I don't think that's up for question. And I'm not rooting for DJ to start, certainly. But I think the point here that's interesting to take away from is, I think the leaning into the run more in this game potentially gives us the opportunity to possess the ball longer. I think we should lean into it regardless, obviously, but I think we lean into it even more with DJ, obviously, because we're not necessarily going to throw it as much, which of course makes sense, right? The game figures these things out and does a pretty good job of doing that. I mean, it's a relatively smart game when it comes to strategy and some of that stuff. And it did some of the same things with Miami, with and without Montreal, if you remember. So really interesting kind of takeaway in that regard, and we'll have to see what happens. So. But I liked the 40 plus points, 45 plus points on average. We'll see if that comes true or not. And I liked the sub 10 points on average of the opponent. So we'll see what happens this week. But with that, I think that brings us to an end here. Any closing thoughts you'd like to add?
Man, outside of that, well, I'll tell you what, 40 points is sure as hell better than 17 points. Oh yeah,
Isn't it just? Isn't it just? Yeah, I'd take 50. Really, I'd be fine with 50. We got 50 against an FCS opponent last year, so I would certainly take that again. Yeah, I would not complain. Would not complain. And let's let's keep our heads up. It's a tough week. It was a tough thing to do, but it's 1 week, and it's a week that will not mean anything come the end of the season if we end up having a decent season. I think having a decent season does get a little harder now. Certainly, there's no question about it. The schedule's brutal, but it doesn't mean we can't come back and still do some things this year. It really doesn't. It's not the world is not ended, but we do have to obviously get better than what we just showed. But I think we can do that. I think we can do it. I don't know if we will, but I think we can. So hope for the best, plan for the worst. That's it. That's all I got for you, Gator Nation.
What happened to cautiously optimistic? Is that been replaced by plan for the best, hope for the worst?
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I don't know where you're at, but that's where I'm at for sure. For sure.
Okay. On that basis, I'll just stay cautiously optimistic. Well, either way, Gator Nation, thanks for tuning in. B, really good to go over this stuff with you. Thanks for the therapy session. It was great.
Absolutely. Back at you.
Send me a bill in the mail, whatever. But outside of that, wherever you are, wherever you may be listening, thank you for taking the time, and we will see you around, Gator Nation.